In this episode of OG55, I got the Italiano and DeeMagicGurl in the house today. We're talking all about D23 Brazil, as well as our thoughts on Tiana's Bayou adventure at the Disneyland Resort. We're going to talk about it, break it down up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We're talking all about Tiana's Bayou adventure at Disneyland, as well as the D23 Brazil Expo. Or is it the fan event over there, George, or is it Expo over there still?
They haven't called it the Expo in a while. I guess they're still calling it right now. I think they just called it D23 Brazil. I think that's all they really call it. They don't even call it the fan event there.
Interesting. Okay, well, we're talking D23 Brazil and all the announcements over there. Before we get started, George, welcome back. Where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely, thanks. Always great having being back on and talking shop with studios, parks, corporate side of things, all that good jazz. But anyway, if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There it is, his world famous intro.
It's the best.
It's amazing. It absolutely.
It's been tricky with a lot of people.
It's why I tune in.
Exactly. We need to get we need to like somehow weave that your intro into like our intro or OG55 like intro graphic or something, right? You know, have it in there mixed in. It'd be great. It'd be fantastic. Danielle, it's always good to have you on. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys.
Absolutely. If you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media.
Yes. So I'm still trying to figure out what's happening in the world of Twitter X. So I'm still on Twitter X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads, Instagram, DeeMagicGurl, Magic, and then GURL. I don't have a fun spiel, but I will remind you that we are approaching docks up ahead. Don't get it confused. It's not a paradox.
There we go. I love it. I absolutely love it. And you're absolutely correct too about the X thing. Like I'm not on it as much as I used to. I used to be bad. I used to be so hooked on it.
No, same.
Right? It's hard not to, but I've kind of just lost interest in it, right? It's like, it's just not the same.
It feels like everyone wants to fight, and it feels like everything feels political when you're like, I'm just talking about the fact like you get a little bit more wet on Tiana's. We'll talk about that. But I had that pop up where people were like, how could you be so conservative? And I was like, I just got dumped with buckets of water. I don't understand what's happening. I'm trying to break my crippling Twitter addiction. I am trying through Blue Sky and Threads.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. It's time. I can feel the shift. I think people are moving over to Blue Sky, and I'm an old geezer. Like it took me a long time, but I'm finally on Instagram.
Like, welcome.
Yeah, it's only been 10 years or whatever, but I'm on there now. You know, I'm actually using it. So, but let's talk a little D23 Brazil. George, you and I did a video, like a little brief video, kind of our initial thoughts on this, right? Mm-hmm. I really want to talk to you, Danielle, too. I kind of expand upon, like, what was your initial thoughts on this? Like, going into this, your expectations, what we actually got. Where do you stand with it?
Basically, describe to us what they absolutely didn't even mention.
Exactly. Well, I thought about this and I was like, okay, like we know that they want to bring the Latin American audience in. Like even if you look for jobs on Disney's site, they're hiring for tons of positions down in South America. So we know like they're definitely trying to get like more of a presence there, and it's an untapped market in many ways. But I was thinking they were going to announce like a partnership through Disney Adventures by Disney, maybe a new cruise line stop, maybe potentially a World Showcase location for Epcot, maybe a steakhouse. I was thinking, maybe we'll get something there, or maybe they were going to talk about Walt and El Grupo, his trip to South America. We didn't We didn't get really any of that. The most I got out of it was Disneyland, downtown Disneyland. Sorry, downtown Disney for all the professionals watching. Downtown Disney at Disneyland. The new food offerings that we're getting. I'm excited. We're getting a barbecue joint. But I was like, I shouldn't have had to go to Brazil to figure that out. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, I felt like a lot of the stuff they announced, they were even like repeat announcements. Like they didn't really announce a whole lot, but even the stuff they did announce was already like a known thing, right, George? Like we were talking about like the construction timelines for like Tropical Americas, like opening in 2027. Like that was announced at the expo in Anaheim, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt is moving.
It's moving. Shovels are
somewhere.
Dirt is moving. Yeah, literally. We got like 5 years worth of stuff at D23. Dirt is moving. Shovels are in the ground. I have yet to see one shovel.
I know. No, Disneyland Forward. Where's this Pandora going? Like I thought for sure we'd get something for Disneyland 70th. Like I was very pumped about that. I was like, we're gonna get more information, maybe some, you know, what the decorations, what the new fireworks will be. And I'm like, okay, now they didn't do it at Brazil, so what are they just gonna happen on a press release on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I guess it will. I mean, it's kind of interesting that they haven't I thought we should get some idea about Pandora. I thought the very least, you know, maybe because I know Brazil, Walt Disney World has a big Brazilian, I mean, fan base, you know. So I thought we'll get a lot of Walt Disney World stuff at least.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. And like I thought, like, okay, we'll find out where Monstropolis is going and things like that.
Right.
Nothing.
But at the same time, OG, you're big on the saying sometimes not saying something is saying something.
Right, exactly.
I feel like because they didn't give us the actual location for Monsters Inc., that basically told us that more so it may be going into the Muppet Courtyard. Because I feel like that if it was the animation courtyard, Damara would have had no problem with saying that on stage. Like, what's the big secret? I think if it came to the Muppets, he would never take that risk of saying it in front of a live audience.
That's a great point. Yeah, we talked about that too. Like, yeah, where it's like if it was a slam dunk where he felt the fans wouldn't be upset, he would have said it because it would have been one more thing to announce, right?
Totally.
So that's interesting, you know? Yeah, that's probably the case. It probably is going there and he can't say it, or they really don't know where it's going and then we're really in a mess.
Well, my thought is we're not going to find out maybe about Disneyland 70th stuff until Epic opens, because then they have something to like present from a PR perspective.
That's interesting. Yeah, probably because that's around the time Epic opens in May, and that's probably around the time they're going to start kicking off the
70th stuff.
Right.
I assume we'll get like a tease January or February, like plan ahead for this special ticket offer for our 70th. You know, it's gonna be tied to some ticket sales, kind of like what they're doing right now with their 3-day ticket offering for Disney Plus subscribers. But I definitely think it's gonna be tied to something for like embrace the magic for our 70th. And oh, by the way, here's Paint the Night, and here's all the information you've wanted.
Yeah. Now that I am excited for when they dropped that little tease on Instagram with the Mac the truck, I was like,
oh, I was a kid again. I mean, I'm ready. Just tell me when and where.
When can we do this again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And is it going to DCA? Is it going to Disneyland? Like, has that been confirmed yet?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But speaking of that, what is your thoughts on that? Because if Avatar does end up in Hollywoodland, like a lot of people are claiming it's going to, we still don't know where Coco's going. We're all assuming it's going to be in where the parade buildings are, behind the pier. Then they'd have to reroute the buildings for the parade. How does that hinder the operations if they were to put a parade in DCA again?
I don't know. I mean, I remember the stunt the electric light parade had over there for a long time. I know Disneyland, they don't always like Paint the Night because for Christmas the garland goes across and the frozen float cannot make it down Main Street with all of the garland on top. So the years that we do have Paint the Night, there's no garland at Christmas. So I don't know. It's a good question. Like, does DCA even have but dirt is apparently moving somewhere, but I doubt we'll have anything concrete. I doubt we'll have anything concrete by next summer, I think, for Disneyland Forward, or at least Pandora or Coco. I think they're going to keep like teasing it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we'll get more on the Avengers Campus e-ticket ride. I think we'll get more on that because I feel like that's an easier lift than like Coco and Pandora. And there's over that area over by the Simba parking lot. It used to be Cast parking, Simba over by Pixar Place, where the downtown Disney parking is now. There's supposed to be stuff there at some point too, but I don't. Everyone says that. Everyone I talk to thinks that's the potential location for Pandora.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they've been really close to the vest with this Pandora thing, and it's driving me nuts. Like I want to know so bad where this thing is going, and we've speculated like crazy. Is it going in Hollywoodland? Is it going in like Simbalot? You know, I just don't know. And
then you have people that are saying no. They are really strongly saying that it's going into Hollywoodland.
I know,
because they're saying Disney has to kind of fill in the footprint of what's already there before moving into Disneyland Forward. And they're still thinking that Avatar is going to go into Hollywoodland because they don't want to keep James Cameron from delaying the process because he's
dying.
But at the same time, he is a stickler with detail. And for the life of me, I'm trying to still picture that land over in the Hollywoodland area. I don't see it.
I can't see it. I tried.
It may fit contractually,
like acreage wise, right?
Yeah, it fits, but I mean, like, I just don't see it there. Like, you walk down Buena Vista Street, you see Carthay Circle, the building that housed the premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for Walt in the 1930s.
Yeah,
but you bank left, and boom, you're walking into Pandora.
Blue men everywhere.
Right. So Danielle, do you think it's possible with Pandora moving in, right? And let's say they do Hollywoodland, let's say even Simbalot, wherever they decide to put it. It's still a stretch with the whole Avatar thing, no matter really where you put it in DCA. Do you think it's a possibility though that they change the name and kind of the overall theme of DCA, maybe to like a Disney cinematic adventure or something like that, so they have a little more freedom with what they do? Because then they can even put like a Moana land at DCA then.
Yeah.
You know?
They just need to like pick a lane though, because like I worked at the resort during the giant refurb. And like, I remember all like the work that went into recreating 2.0, you know, and like getting Buena Vista Street to be just like Walt was there, and like all the details, like it was just very important to have this whole entire. If you arrived to California in 1923, like this is the experience you're getting. And so like, I think they could make it cinematic if they wanted, but like there are so many nods to California that they would either need to pivot completely into the movie aspect, like a Hollywood Studios, like anything is possible here. You're just wandering onto a set, or really like be like, this is our hodgepodge park that we just call like Disney Adventure Park Part 5, right?
Part 5, I like that. That's perfect. That's perfect.
You're like, okay, okay. I mean, I'm not a huge Pandora fan. I do think the land is beautiful, well done. I'm not criticizing any of the Imagineers or people that worked. It's just not a franchise that I'm like so connected with. So I'm struggling to see how it's going to fit. And also like, at least with the stretch of conservation and Animal Kingdom makes a lot of sense. I'm really struggling to find that tie, even like for DCA. Like, what adventure are you going to go on? Like, is it water conservation? Because that's literally California. Like, it's a water ride. So it's just like, it's a little confusing, and it's not the franchise I would have picked there.
Well, yeah, it's interesting with Avatar. It always seems like everyone says, and this is how I kind of view it, that it's not really their kind of franchise. It's not really big. And then I say, well, these movies are making over $2 billion. Like, so how could it be? But I feel like that people are invested in the films. It's a movie that it's just like, hey, you know what? This looks like a really cool movie. Let's go see it. But when you look at the franchise as a whole, it doesn't have like that deep connective tissue of a lore that people are invested in, like with Star Wars or Marvel.
I see what you're saying. So what you're saying, George, I think I know like where your head's at with this. And I would agree, like where it's more of like an event at the theater.
Yes.
Yes.
But like no one's going home and like digging into the lore of the Na'vi and all that. No one really cares. They don't do that like they do with Star Wars, for example, right?
I'm sure they exist, and if they do, drop Orange Grove 55 a link to let us know that you're out there. We want to know about you.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're the everyday Disney fan that is like, I am such a big fan of what's his name, Jake. I don't even know his Na'vi name. But like I don't think anyone. I see kids always wearing like the ears and all that stuff, but I've never seen that deep connection like people have with Star Wars, where it's been passed down by generation to generation. Same thing with Marvel, like generational. Right. I mean, I know Pandora's not been around that long, and maybe they're maybe they're betting that this becomes a franchise that like people do pass down to their kids. I just don't see it in the same way, and it has that charm.
I think there's even people that are into like the Lord of the Rings more, like
totally.
with the lore, you know, going like through the hobbits and the giants and everything. Like there's a whole complete community for Lord of the Rings. But yeah, you never see like people like getting dressed up, painting themselves blue, you know, running around in loincloths. I mean, that was my last Friday night, but I mean,
there you go, exactly. I'm like, George, come on.
I saw you at the Smurf convention. That's where I recognize you from.
There he is.
Wrong blue people.
Man, I used to love that cartoon as a kid. You know, that was like I think that was like my generation. I grew up like I was that age when like in the 80s or whatever, and I used to love that show as a kid. And they had like a game on ColecoVision, which is like, now I'm really dating myself, that I was like hooked on.
But you see the connection you have to that. Yeah. That's marketability, and that's something that Disney should be thinking about for their theme parks. I know they're thinking about their younger guests, but like the people that are going to bring them to the parks are parents, right? So it's like how can they find nostalgia and build off that in a way that like I just don't ever feel that nostalgia with Pandora, like you do with this Smurfs.
And I'm so glad you said that, Danielle. Now really think about this when they say, you know, they try to gear towards for the kids and everything. Okay, and they say, "Oh, Disney's for kids. Disney's for the kids." Excuse me, how do the kids get there? It's through our pocketbooks. Like,
yeah.
So I'm sorry, Disney is for us. If we have to 100%. Put out these thousands of dollars each time, I'm sorry. The kids are just like there because they have to be there. I'm sorry, it's not always about the kids.
I think that's the beauty of California Adventure. Your kid can go meet Anna and Elsa, and you can go meet Black Panther and Iron Man and make all those things come. It is a family park in many ways, and that's like why I think Coco is a great addition, because it's a good, probably going to be a good family ride. I'm still like, is this Pandora thing going to be a family attraction? I mean, it looks like a boat ride, but it's like, you know, it's just, I hope it finds that connective tissue that we've kind of been talking about.
Yeah, I hope so too. I've always been an advocate for DCA. I think I always seen a lot of potential in that park.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had that brief moment in time from 2007 to 2012 where they really cared a lot about that park, you know?
And it was so good.
Yes.
And it started really taking off. And I liked the edutainment aspect. Like, I had just moved to California from Indiana, and it was a great intro into the state of California, like winemaking, got like the cliff notes, you know, and was able to go to Napa and kind of make connective tissues around like, oh, I learned about that at DCA, or learn about the redwoods, or learn about John Muir, or like Yosemite, and go like when I have finally visited all the places in the original Soarin' Over California, I was like, I am now a Californian, you know. It had a charm, and I think like it's such a bummer it's fallen to where it's just kind of like, oh, the other park, and it's devastating in many ways.
It is, because you know, it's like, yeah, like you said, it's like, oh, it's the other park, and it's like a lot of fans have that mentality, like not just Disney. I see that a lot with the fan community too, right? Where it's like, oh, it's just DCA, it doesn't matter as much. I'm like, yeah, it matters. It sits feet away from Disneyland. It matters, you know. It's like having a beautiful home, right? Like a beautiful home, but then you don't take care of your front lawn. It's like, well, it's still your home though, you know. It's still right there, you know.
Well, and I would go a step further and argue that it's actually more important sometimes than Disneyland, because Disneyland is historical. It's going to be there for people and their kids for generation. You're going to ride Mr. Toad not because we are familiar with Mr. Toad, no, but our family remembers that Christmas every year we went to hell and it was freezing outside, you know? Like everyone's going to ride those attractions because it's innately a part of their family experience, whereas DCA is about franchises, and kids are going to be able to remember, like, oh, I'm riding this ride because Frozen came out when I was a kid, or I'm meeting them. And like, I think that is more of a stake in the claim of the future of the company than anything, which is why it makes me nervous when they're not like thinking about how to better theme it or how to connect things. Like, you know, obviously they're not sharing their playbook with us, but it's interesting because Disneyland, I think, will always have a staying power, you know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's like when you have people who are coming from out of state, out of country, right?
Yeah.
If they're coming to Disneyland Resort, the Disneyland ticket is a for sure thing. Like
100%.
if you're coming here, you're going to Disneyland, but the DCA ticket, not so much. That park is more expendable. So I've always been of the mindset, like if you make DCA a must go to park, you're guaranteed both then, because no one's going to skip Disneyland, right? No. So just make DCA like super strong, and you know, it's money in the bank, you know.
Look, I would be there every day if they put the Grizzly Bears or the Country Bears on Grizzly River Rapids. I'd be there every day, not complaining about getting wet, but I'd be so excited about the opportunity to see the Bears again.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect.
And you would think that they would have, because after they put the Big
what's
Owl,
that statue about?
Yeah, it's like we thought that was like a hint of something. And plus, the Country Bears used to have the meet and greet where the Zootopia characters used to be. So it's like, I mean, come on, it fits. You already have the Grizzly Bear Mountain there. I mean, it fits. And then also, too, you know, you had mentioned that DCA is a hard-driven kind of like a IP park in a sense, like, because it brings on the new generations for memories of kids saying, like, I remember Frozen and all that, where they just made the announcement that now Moana is going to have a meet and greet over at DCA, which I thought was very interesting, because she's usually over at Disneyland right by Alice. And now she's over at DCA, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what kind of correlation are they going to have there? And again, as OG always says, they kind of test the waters. No pun intended.
To see how far they'll go, right, George?
You're welcome.
There you go. There you go.
That was perfect. That was like a triple. That was like a triple threat right there.
That was perfect. Yeah.
To see, you know, if the character works in that environment, and we all kind of speculated that, you know, there was eventually going to be a Moana attraction and what have you. So it does make me wonder that since DCA is a hard-driven IP park now moving forward, that if that Moana would be part of the Disneyland forward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, this movie, Moana 2, is tracking to have a gargantuan weekend. And it's probably going to go on to make $1 billion. You know, I mean, all it has to do is be a decent movie, it's probably going to hit $1 billion.
I think if they took the idea, replaced the Pandora ride just with a Moana experience type ride, water ride, I think that would be winning, because then it's not like a completely different franchise of like, it's like still keeping it in the animated family. Because you have Pixar there.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Danielle, because Moana, technically it's not California, but it's still the Pacific though.
Right. And
so it's easier connection.
Easier connection. There are a lot of Pacific Islanders in Southern California. Yeah. Like it would be, and the food, actually, if you think about it from a food perspective, there's a lot of great like South Pacific food that you can get in Los Angeles. So to me, it would be like they actually just teased some new food offerings that I'm like, these are going to be wildly popular because they're like South Pacific themed. And one of them was like a Spam Musubi burrito over the Hollywood Land catering truck. Like, so I see a lot of opportunity. I mean, anything but Pandora, but I would say like I could see it. They could even change it to animating adventure or just something like
100%. That would work. That would absolutely work. Yeah, that Moana thing is brilliant, and it's such a mega franchise. I mean, it's huge. It has lastability too. It's not like a here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing. I mean, it's almost been a decade since the first movie came out. You know?
Yeah, and kids have grown up with it, and they know it well.
Exactly.
And if they did decide to go that route, they would all probably have to try to draw straws to see who gets the shortest. Who's going to break the news to Cameron?
James Cameron.
Well, yeah. But like, let's say like, you know, if something happened, like, well, what would the company do? Or would they move forward? Would they cancel it? Would they can't? Like, I don't know. It's just, and when Bob has been like, we have like 14 more avatars coming out, I'm like, who's asking for this? Just curious.
I know. No, and he did. He literally did say like Avatar movies as far as the eye can see. You know,
like we're going to be like in like old, and there's still Avatar films coming out.
Oh yeah.
Which because Cameron confirmed. He said as long as people go and want to see them, he already has ideas for 6 and 7.
Now I will say this: at the expo, I really thought Cameron was actually really funny on stage because he actually came on stage right after The Rock, right? And The Rock, dude's like swole, right? And he had this like Hawaiian shirt. And it was like, it was like,
Ripped.
It was like, it was tight in all the right places for The Rock. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then Cameron comes out with a Hawaiian shirt too. And he's like a skinny dude, right? It's kind of baggy on him. And he comes out, right, George? And he says something to the effect of like, I don't rock the Hawaiian shirt like The Rock did. I don't fill this thing out like he did. It was pretty funny. I was like, okay. I never really saw his personality like that before. So it was kind of surprising to me, So he's usually so serious.
He doesn't show that side to him. He does have that, but like he's more so like strictly business. So yeah, I guess he got a one-liner in there or two, But yeah, it was really funny because no one was expecting that.
Yeah. No. It was cool. It was cool. Now, another thing that they kind of announced at the, and I say kind of announced because it wasn't really like a huge thing, was the villains, like the roster of villains for Villains Land.
Yeah.
We had like Captain Hook and, the Evil Queen and Maleficent and Jafar. And, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, in terms of like what they picked, Danielle, I mean, surprising or not so much? Kind of like, okay.
To me, like, I think they picked the right villains for the, they're not picking bowler hat guy from Meet the Robinsons, like just not happening. I think they did like a nod to all the favorites,
Yeah, no, 100%. That was great. Boiler hat guy. Yeah, exactly. That'd be a misstep for sure.
Yeah. Sure. But I mean, I love that movie and I thought that was a great film, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, especially as more is coming out about, is it the Dark Universe or the Epic, the monsters part of the park?
Yeah, which looks amazing.
It looks so cool. So I assume that this is their like answer rebuttal, the Villains Land, to give us a little bit more about it. So I mean, I think it looks really cool. But we don't really have a lot to work with except, these characters. So what are they going to do?
They had the roster of villains, and then DeMauro kind of gave a brief short synopsis of like the backstory to this land where the villains were summoned.
That's right.
By a spell that they have taken over the land, and that there are no happily ever afters here. So like, don't expect that the heroes to come and save the day. So I'm guessing that you're going to kind of get like that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride aspect where you wreak havoc, you die, you go to hell, the end.
Yeah. I hope Disney is that ballsy with it though. That'd be great if there's no happy endings on these attractions. That's kind of a cool twist, right? Go ahead. Go ahead, Danielle.
Very un-Disney. And I have to wonder, will all the cast, because I always think about it logistically, are all the cast going to be like, have a horrible day? Like, is that going to be like the vibe of the land where it's like the bad place and everyone is just like,
that would be awesome. I never thought about that. Like where they really get into character, like, have a horrible day. That kind of thing would be really, really funny.
Because, honestly, I would do that. And then someone could say to me, wow, that was like awesome. Like you really bring like, the land like alive as a cast member. I'd be like, I don't work here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't work here. That's hilarious.
No, but it's the theming you get on Rise of the Resistance or the Haunted Mansion, like those type of theming. I assume that land, especially since what we've seen them do with Batu, like Bright Suns, like I assume we will see something like have a horrible day or have a villainous morning or like, something like that. And I assume Magic Band gameplay will be in effect and it will have something related. I think that Batu has been a testing ground for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And another thing too, that in terms of like testing ground and stuff, I think they should take what they've learned from Villains Grove, that small little thing that they do for Oogie Boogie Bash, and apply that. And George, we talked about this a lot when we were at Oogie Boogie, and apply that on a grand scale every night at Villains Land, where you have like the projections of like the shadows of the characters on the rocks and everything.
And I forget who mentioned it on our live. they said they should take the approach of how they do in Galaxy's Edge. So every night when you have fireworks, it's a different show if you're in the villains. So I think that would be really awesome. But I also think too that the magic mirror is going to play a huge part in this, because the magic mirror is what actually introduced for the Villains Land when they had him up on the screen for D23. He's also going to be the center focus on the villain show over at Hollywood Studios.
That's right.
And then in the synopsis, they're saying they were summoned by a spell. Well, who summoned the spell?
Right.
I'm thinking
you. Do you think
you never know? I mean,
you think? I wonder if it's us. We summoned the magic mirror to, like, I wonder if we become a part of that story.
Well, and here's the thing too. If you think about that, that is true, because kind of take a little bit off of Phantasmic. When Mickey is talking to the magic mirror, he kind of schmooves him into agreeing, and then he gets trapped in the mirror itself. So you kind of take it off of that. And it could be the persuasion of the magic mirror kind of fooling us. And then we end up casting the magic summons, not wanting to, and it summons the villains.
That would be really cool. And they can even use in the whatever big e-ticket they have, whatever big, I'm assuming it'll be probably like a Rise of the Resistance kind of villains e-ticket. You can even use the magic mirror as sort of a gateway into like the different villains. So like one room is Maleficent, you go through the magic mirror and now you're in like Jafar, and each one, that's how you kind of go from room to room. It'd be kind of cool, Yeah, we'll see. I think it's interesting. One surprise though, Danielle, that George and I were talking about was that roster, they left out Scar.
Yeah, I thought that was really bizarre.
That was kind of weird.
The Lion King, we don't know what's in the Lion King ride over in Paris yet.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, because Scar's getting his own thing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it is bizarre. But I guess it would be because Jafar is part of the roster.
Yeah. Well, everyone's trying to figure out, is this like just a virtual retelling of the movie on a ride? Or is it going to be like Simba's adventure? Like, it hasn't been really, like, there's so much lore with Lion King now. It used to just be like Simba, Mufasa, Scar.
There's more lore to there than to Avatar.
Exactly. When I looked up, like, you can do this. You can Google like Mufasa's family lineage, and there's lore that goes back generations, and you're like, wow, I didn't even know this was a thing.
That's incredible. That's funny. That is so funny. Yeah, Scar's a cool character. It'd be kind of cool, like you were saying, George. I think it was you told me the steakhouse would be a cool kind of concept. I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was a viewer that was completely like morbid to the idea of having a steakhouse, but if you really think about it, and I'm like, use Dark Universe for that instance. You have Dracula with the vampires of a steakhouse. Okay, well, what are they into? They're into flesh and blood, so okay, you turn it into a steakhouse, where it's
funny.
It is. And it's like, it would be very comical if they had an elephant graveyard steakhouse, because it's more geared towards Scar and the hyenas. So I mean, you could have these jumbo sized zebra legs, or like that. It looks like
tomahawk steak.
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of like that. And with gastronomics, you could make all sorts of unique things. Like, if they're able to make Star Wars food, I think they could really go out on a nice steakhouse for that. That's not just like, oh, look, mashed potatoes, garlic mashed potatoes and spinach. Wow. Like, I think they could actually do some really cool things. Like, you could even do like steam, and like, I don't know. The birdie boiler would be funny if they had like a little like
that would be so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I actually recently had an experience at Disneyland with the Broken Spell Lounge that just opened. I got to talk with the food and beverage person, and we were talking about how hard it is because he opened Batu, how hard it was to, like, we see what they eat kind of in movies, but how do you make that for mass consumption at a theme park? So it was fascinating because we really started talking about theming, and like, so every drink on the menu had a certain theming that they had done for the gastronomics to be a nod to Sleeping Beauty. So it was just really interesting. So when you're thinking about Villains Land, like, what are we going to eat? what is it going to be? Is it going to be like little squishy things that Ursula eats or puts the lipstick on and like, yeah, like,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what is it going to be?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could see like
an idea for like the elephant graveyard, like steakhouse, and have the African Savannah quencher, which is the drink, and they bring it out, and as someone looks at it, like, I didn't order a tea. It's like, that's not tea, that's your water. Like,
there you go. And I can even see like with like you were saying with Ursula and stuff. Like, there's a lot of fun kind of like alcoholic beverages, like cocktails you can do with her, and you can have like little bobas in the bottom. It look like little fish eggs or something, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
And I hope we get stuff like that it's not just like here's a brownie with some purple like icing. Look, it's Ursula. Like, I'm hoping we get some really creative, unique things that are like the blue milk, like, you know, just trying to figure out like really unique experiences, because like for me, I go to theme parks to eat. So like, it's a lot more fun for me when it's more themed. And it's more like on brand. So it will be really interesting to see.
You could even have an alcoholic beverage where you call it the Hades and you light it on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
That'd be amazing. See, that's the kind of fun stuff I want to see. That'd be a lot of fun.
Like you could serve flaming cheese from Hades. Like, it would be like so funny, because like there's so many things they could do with flames, or like the villain's grill, and it's like it's Hades running the kitchen. I don't know. Like, there's just so many things you could do.
The We Are Worms pasta dish.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be so funny, especially because the villains, most of them have their sidekicks. It would be pretty funny to see them like put on a restaurant or like try to figure out how to sell this. Like, it's the same thing with LeFou and Gaston, you know, like there's a lot of fun between them. So I don't know. It will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could have like and like specialty mugs like they have at Trader Sam's. You can have like the Evil Queen's like cauldron. You put a cocktail in there with some dry ice. I mean, it's like
$80
$80. Yeah, exactly.
People, take my money now.
Oh yeah, it would be. I mean, it's a mint. I mean, if Disney just sticks this landing, it's a mint. It's an absolute mint.
There is one thing that they could do, but it would be technically a liability. They could sell apples, but they're kind of rotten, outdated apples that it gives everyone food poisoning.
Oh yeah, that's
I think that'd be a little bit more of a liability than anything.
There you go. Now, one thing too that was kind of an announcement. They showed some like, I don't know what you would call it, like a CGI like schematic of like that Cars attraction.
Yeah.
And it was going through like this dirt path or whatever. And there's rumors that this thing is going to be a high-speed trackless vehicle, which is crazy to me. But what were your thoughts on that, Danielle? Because that was kind of wild.
I like absolutely operationally, I'm like, this is absolutely wild. Like, thinking about how that might run in an actual theme park is insane to me. And like, I know that I feel bad for the cast already.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to experience it. And I think it's going to be great. Once again, the theming is a little weird, but like, I don't really understand. And I hope I will understand by the time I get there. Like, when they have opened the attraction, I'm like, oh, this is why this is here. But I'm still kind of scratching my head about the placement.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think that as long as they put the same amount of love into this that they did with ours, I think it could potentially be like gorgeous with all the like the rock work and all that. But they just have to approach it the same way they did ours, you know, with those magnificent, you know, rock works and the arches.
Yeah.
I'll be, you know, you just got to put the same love in there, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, and so when I think about this attraction opening, I'm like, is it going to open in 10 years? Like,
yeah. With Disney, you never know. You know,
it's a big overhaul. It's a huge overhaul.
Yeah, it's massive. And Disney had to actually go back to the drawing board a little bit because I'm not really like well versed in a lot of the Florida like water management stuff and the Reedy Creek stuff, but there was some water management thing that they had issue with some of Disney's plans. Now they got to go back to the drawing board a little bit and rework those plans. Stuff like that might delay this thing, you know?
Yeah.
Let's say you, Tiana.
And for me, like, no matter what, I'm not convinced that that's what we're going to get 100% of the time with anything until dirt has been lifted and they're actually starting to build it, because it happened even with New Fantasyland. You know, it was basically all princess meet and greets, and they said, you know what, this isn't going to work. We got to scrap some of this, and then boom, we get Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, basically on the fly. From Tom Staggs and what have you. So anything can change and be altered at any given moment. But if we get what they are promising that this is going to be, it's a unique ride of its time. It's going to be like a trackless,
huge
vehicle terrain where you're like literally like racing through, the dirt path and what have you. And here's the thing: if they lift the dirt, they don't really have to do too much with it. Just
it's true.
Get a wheelbarrow and just like make the track. But the one thing that does concern me about this particular attraction is we see how with Radiator Springs Racers, there's constant breakdowns and what have you. This is good. We also see breakdown. Well, I don't want to say breakdowns because I think we all kind of know why why Rise is done all the time is because people don't listen and don't take their hats and sunglasses off the top of their head. That's right. But I think they're going to have a lot of operation challenges. Not saying that they can't overcome them with this attraction. Plus, this is going to be in Florida.
Yeah, I know.
Where there's tons of rainfall.
Yeah.
So how long is this attraction going to even be up and running for most of the time?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about that actually very hard when they announced it and all that concept art of outside. I was like Test Track has problems running outside.
Sometimes. And it just has that one little strip, that bang turn, but the whole entire ride
and then
outdoors.
Right. And if it's trackless like it's rumored to be, you have those whatever they have under there, like the chips to read the vehicles. Well, how is rain and the thing getting wet how is it going to impact those sensors?
Right.
I mean, there's a million different things to think about, which is a thing. I mean, it's interesting because it's weird because Disney World has been around since 1971, right? It's over 50 years old. Yep. But I feel like a lot of times the Imagineers kind of design for Disney World like it's California.
They absolutely do.
And I don't understand that.
I think it's because it's in their backyard.
Yeah.
And I think some of them, I mean, I can't speak for all of them, but when I worked there was Imagineers who had never been to Disney World before, like on vacation. They've been there for work, but never for they didn't understand it. So I think it's just very interesting. This book I just finished called, I forget exactly the title, but it was basically about the Imagineering women, the women of Imagineering who made Disney what it is. And it's fascinating. I think it's really just called Women in Imagineering. It's a great book, but one of them talked about that Imagineering is so far removed from park operations that they create these amazing things without thinking about the actual park operations that have to happen. They think obviously people need to move through the attraction, but they're not thinking like, oh, this is a day where Disneyland is going to have 89,000 people. The ride needs to be a people eater. It needs to get people through the experience. They think about it more like one guest experience, which isn't a bad thing, but they don't always think about the collective whole, which is why sometimes when going through attractions, either things are broken because they were not made to withstand the repetitive use, or they have been like the way the book described it, the relationship between the operations and Imagineering is very tense, and things had not been handed off properly to them.
That makes sense.
So I think that's what happens is they design and blue sky everything, and then without bringing in sometimes the operational people being like, hey, a 4-seater is really not going to move the dial on getting everyone loaded for the ride. And it's not going to eat people the same way as some rides. Whereas I think Little Mermaid was intentionally designed to be a people eater.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. We see this issue time and time again. And it's even with the Avengers e-ticket that they're now building, the first incarnation of that attraction, I heard the one where you had you were on that jetpack and you would separate.
Yeah.
Right. And it seemed like a cool concept, and Imagineering was killing it with the idea, but it was I heard Burbank was in operations where they were like, well, this thing it had terrible capacity though. You gotta, you gotta figure it out, to, get people through this thing. And I guess they couldn't crack that code. So now they settled for this other kind of more transformerish, what looks like a kind of more of a transformerish kind of thing.
Right. And then the vehicles that they had for the e-ticket, they just kind of utilized it for a smaller CD ticket for the Stark Flight Lab. And I think that's the only reason why we're getting a fourth attraction.
I
in
agree with that.
Campus.
Yep, I know, 100%, 100%. So it'll be very, very interesting. Oh, go ahead, George.
One last thing I just wanted to mention about the Cars attraction, which I thought was very interesting, was, well, it's not necessarily about the attraction itself, but just the Cars franchise in general. There was mentions that there was supposed to be a Cars 4 announcement at the D23.
Right.
And it was never mentioned at either the one in California or Brazil. But when people got the surveys and they said, what are you looking forward to the most? Cars 4 was on there. So it does make me wonder if a Cars 4 could still potentially be in the works because of this attraction that could bring in a whole new generation. Not even just with the films, but more merch, because that's essentially what made Cars Land over at DCA was the merchandise, because it moved like hotcakes.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't surprise me if they're working on a Cars 4. Absolutely wouldn't surprise me. We got 2 Frozen movies coming out. We got Incredibles 3. We just had Inside Out 2. Probably a 3rd one eventually.
Yep.
I'm pretty certain. Now, George, you kind of did scare me a little bit when you said one more thing. I thought you were going to tell us your Planes movie theater experience. So.
Yes.
well, Danielle, we'll after the show on that one. That was a crazy, that was a wild experience. Go ahead.
But then speaking of like the park operations and Imagineering, I definitely agree with you, Danielle. They kind of not necessarily. Well, I mean, they do butt heads, but I feel like that everybody is not on the same page, and they all have the best interest to have like a smooth transition and the best experience for the park goers, but they all have to be on the same page. And I feel like that's where they went wrong with Tiana's, because the park operations is saying, okay, well, we need this up by this time, and Imagineering saying like, no, we need like more time for this. And then so it kind of goes both ways, where
totally
Imagineering doesn't listen to park operations, and park operations doesn't listen to Imagineering.
Yeah, they got to get on. They got to get on the same page.
But I think that's why that the two leader approach works so well for Disney. When they had it, you had Walsh and Roy. You know, you had is it Frank Wells and Michael Eisner, exactly. So you like, I think when you have those people that respect each other, you get the best product when it is led by those two who understand operations versus Imagineering.
1,000%, Danielle. Actually, some interesting news. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Bob Iger, I think it was Variety that was reporting this, one of the trades. Bob Iger actually met with the Netflix CEOs.
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, because so Netflix has that dual CEO thing, right? They have 2 CEOs, and they both have equal power, I believe. Bob Iger actually talked to them about if that model would work for a company like Disney.
Oh,
I mean, first of all, the fact that Iger went over there and he said, would it work? I'm like, Bob.
You know it works. It was founded that way.
You started it. This company literally invented this.
Right. Come on, Bob. You know, like Walt and Roy. Come on, you know. But I was encouraged when I saw that report, because I'm like, okay, that's the kind of direction I kind of think they should go in. Because, I don't think Josh is really, I don't think he's really ready for like that big of he's not really ready for prime time, I don't think, right? I think if you had like maybe Josh with like a Dana Walden, right, that could work. You have the studio, Dana's incredibly smart woman. She's doing great things for her division. You have her, and she knows her studio stuff inside and out, right? And then you have Josh, who would be like more the theme park side, totally. And you have that duality that could work very, very well. I think
it would be gold. I think we'd see some of Disney's best years if they got the 2-person approach.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now we a few weeks ago, I think like 2 weeks ago now, if I'm mistaken. We all met at Disneyland, and I at that time I didn't go on Tiana's yet, but you and George did, and then I actually went a week after with Theme Park Wizard. We went to the Magic Key preview, so I got on it too, and I'm kind of curious, Danielle, what were your overall thoughts, like expectations going in, and how did the reality match up?
Yeah, so that's great. So I actually rode the attraction in June at Disney World. So I kind of knew what to expect from Disney World. I immediately loved it when I first saw it. I thought this is a great addition to New Orleans. Like it really ties everything together. Like it is a really well done, like attraction. The story's not too hard to understand. You're not trying to figure out like what's going on. I thought it was really well done. And then I did Disneyland's, and I still had the same feeling. I thought it was great. The only thing that it felt different is the pacing. Pacing felt very different in Disney World versus Disneyland. Disneyland felt very fast, but it didn't feel bad. It just, I was constantly doing this back and forth, where Disney World was just kind of like, oh, I could look over here. I have time to look at this animatronic. I have time to look at this one. Disneyland, I was going back and forth, which it wasn't a bad thing, but it was like, oh my gosh, we have to get to this party now. The other one felt like, oh, let's just kind of go through the bayou and we'll find our way. But this one was just felt very like rushed. But I liked it. And I know like some people think it's really bad. And I'm really struggling to see people's like viewpoint. Cause I mean, there's story plot holes, sure. But like, it's like what, a 3-minute ride?
Right.
What is it?
Exactly. Like, what is it like? How long, George? You're like the encyclopedia with this stuff. Do you know how long this ride is, Splash or Tiana?
Splash. Now, actually, both Splashes I think had different times. I think Disneyland's was maybe like. Well, I know Disney World's was like clocking in at almost 11 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Ooh, sorry about that. Disneyland's, because it moves much quicker, you're probably looking at maybe like a 5-6 minute. Like
it feels so quick.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because this was an overlay, or not an overlay, like a re-theme, right?
So re-theme, refresh.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, or many times when they do that, you can kind of like for example, Mission Breakout. You look at Mission Breakout and you're like, okay, that's cool, it looks awesome, but like you can tell, okay, that was the tower.
It's so hard not to see the Tower of Terror.
Exactly. And the good thing about Tiana's was like, if I didn't know any better, if I turn off my Disney nerd brain,
you wouldn't know it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I loved how fluid the animatronics were, and they were bigger than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah,
you know?
Lewis is huge.
You're
like, hello, Lewis.
It's crazy. Like, and Mondo was amazing. Like he's pretty tall too. You know, so yeah, it was really it was a great attraction. I think they did a really, really good job, and I'm happy with it. I really am. Now the only thing is that my only complaint would be the water level.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is what got me in so much trouble on Twitter. Sorry, X, wherever the place, the bad place. I just, so my friend and I wrote it. We got off it. We had just seen you. I think we just saw you guys afterwards. We looked like we got into a pool, like, and it was insane. And like, I know the log was full. I know that they haven't systematically changed anything on their ride. Like I've read everyone's responses, but it just feels like there's so much water than before.
Yeah. Oh, it did. It felt crazy. And that was the only thing, because I felt more like anticipation for that. So it's kind of that a little bit distracted me, you know, but minor quibble. I mean, overall, I thought it was really well done. What say you, Tiana? What were your thoughts on the Disneyland one?
Yeah. So Abby and I wrote it actually opening day, but not opening day for everyday guests. It was like the startup date for the Magic Key Holder preview. Yep. So first off, I thought I was so glad that I was able to do that, because I was there the last day of Splash Mountain and the first day of Tiana's for Disneyland's, and I thought that was very unique. So I kind of had an idea of what to expect as far as like the storyline and everything goes, like, because of riding Florida's first, but yet the structure of Disneyland's mountain is built very differently. So I was trying to like pinpoint, okay, where is everything going to go? How is the pacing going to go? Like, that was exciting me. I was very curious to see. So we got the first 2 seats in the log. Now I thought, okay, I've been on Splash before. We're going to get soaked.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to get soaked.
Right.
No, it wasn't soaked. We got torrential downpoured because not only did it come from the sides like it used to, it almost capsized us like from the front, where literally a whole wave went over our heads.
Yeah.
And it was, we
Crazy.
were soaking wet. And when we came down the final drop, I think it was the final drop. Yeah, it had to be the final drop. We hit the drop, and then we were turning, and then we saw the Mark Twain coming around where there was people standing in the front. I wiped the water from my eyes. I looked up, and all I saw was a whole line of people on the Mark Twain. They were like this.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
That is so funny.
That's how bad it was, and it was.
did
That's
not
how bad
expect
it
the
was in a
water.
good way. But
I
like,
didn't expect all the water on the sides. I expected it from up here, like always, but did not expect it to wash up the front and then back. And like, I was getting wet everywhere, and that wasn't just the first drop. Like that, like multiple drops. It was just like taking on water.
Basically, you were in a floating bathtub, is what you were.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the back stuff is the worst. Oh, I hate that.
I was like, oh.
I hate that. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's interesting too. But one of the interesting things that I noticed about Tiana's was what they did with the queue. Because when you go up on that balcony part, right? They turned half of that into a kitchen.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is really, really cool. Because there was really nothing up there before. You can just kind of see out. Yeah. I thought that was a nice little touch. And I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think they'd even bother doing something like that, but that was cool.
Our queues are never that cool. So I also did not expect much, especially if you're going to Florida and being like, oh my gosh, like this is like really themed. So to be able to see ours get like the same kind of love and attention, I also think it's cool because ours blends so well into like the Haunted Mansion skyline. Like it all kind of blends well. I think it's a really cool thing, honestly.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's still people, I can't even believe it. I still see people on X. This is, I'm trying to stay away from it as much as possible, but every time now and then you log in or whatever and you see they're still complaining about Splash Mountain being gone.
I know. So I got a lot of attacks when I posted my review because I was just like, I really enjoyed this ride. And they're like, how could you enjoy this ride? They took Splash Mountain. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let it go. Like, move on. Like it's gone. Like it's not coming back. I get you had your time to process, but like it's time.
It's been 4 years.
It's not even just the people that say, oh, how could they get rid of Splash Mountain? There's people still out there that still have the hope that it's coming back. It's like, yeah, they just did all this work. Yeah, they're just going to revert it back.
Why does this feel so familiar?
It's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. Yeah, everyone has a right to miss the old thing or they don't like the new thing, and that's fine. But there comes a point when you have to move on. It's like anything in life. You just have to sort of go on from it. And I still see so much of that. And I'm like, come on, you guys,
I don't know the last time you guys rode Splash, but it was run down. The animatronics didn't work. Like and there was so much TLC it needed, that ride, that it, in my opinion, wasn't fully salvageable to like today's standards. Like I think the animatronics are fine. I'm sure they're reskinned and being reused, but it just didn't feel like, I don't know, it wasn't relatable anymore. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people were also like, yeah, I get it. Like we have a princess, literally a storyline here that people know and love. And she has a showboat. She has all these great things in the park. Like why I don't know. It feels like, once again, no brainer to me. And to see the attraction up and running, bright, beautiful, well lit animatronics, like state-of-the-art animatronics, like it is a great addition.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, like I went on the very last day that Splash was operating, and yeah, you could tell it was completely run down.
Yeah,
there was no upkeep, which I'm for sure Disney did that on purpose, because it's like, why put money into something that they're gonna, take out anyway? But, like people complaining that there's, dark spots in Tiana's and everything, and I'm like, have you been on Splash in the last several years? The whole thing was dark. Like,
yeah, you get in there and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? You're going.
Speaking of which, I did get to ride it a second time, and I rode it at night, which the color package is just beautiful. The greens and the purples with the the lit the fireflies and everything, and it was, oh, I loved it.
It's going to be a great summer attraction.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful at night. I think it's really great. It ties in really well with New Orleans Square, you know. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I really am. I thought it was a great addition. It opens what in like 2 days now, November 15th.
Yep.
So it's exciting. It's exciting. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But
I'm
I think
glad I
families are
got
gonna
my
love it.
rides in right now, because I have a feeling with the virtual queue and everything, by everybody and their grandmother are going to want to go on this ride, because
Yeah.
you have to either pick one or the other. For Haunted Mansion and Tiana's, you can't have both virtual queues
Oh,
at the same time.
I did the other day.
Oh no,
Oh,
no,
really?
we did too. But I mean,
But
like,
that was for cast. That was for.
right.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
starting
Yeah.
November 15th, it's you either have to choose one or the other until you actually use it.
That's such a
Then you
bummer.
can get a virtual queue. So that's going to be interesting.
I
Yeah.
get why, but it's a bummer.
Yeah.
Totally. No, absolutely.
I hate the virtual queue situation.
There's so much, Danielle, with that, and then like even like Lightning Lane, that's so unnecessary. I saw today on social media that they're going to give I think it's Magic Key holders 50% off on Lightning Lanes. I'm like, that's the opposite of what you want to do. Why are you funneling more people into the quick lane?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Also, 50% off still is not a justifiable like amount for something that was free.
Great point. Yeah, it was free. Yep, exactly.
And I spend thousands of dollars on my pass a year, like, and that's just like the entry. Like, no, that's why we have a pass. We do it so we can go multiple. The only way I see myself using the Lightning Lanes or the multi pass is if, like, I have people from out of town and they want to do everything.
Right, and that's the only time
like,
I've ever used it was with this guy or like, you know.
yeah,
family.
but it makes sense because you're like, no, this has to be a very like efficient Disney day, and the only way to do that is to play by the like pay to play. So like, but for us people that just like to go and enjoy the environment, like it's, I don't know, I just don't see myself buying it unless it's like, you know, out of towners.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm the same way. Now the Italiano, not to get too far off, but like you're going soon, first time ever for the holidays.
I am.
Oh.
First time at Disneyland during the holiday. I've been to Walt Disney World many times during the holidays, but I've never been to Disneyland. I tried making it out for last year, but my work, it just, with the scheduling and everything, I just couldn't make it. But I promised myself, because I was really bummed because I thought I was going to be able to make it last year and I couldn't. And I thought next year, which is this year, I'm like, I'm going to make it to be where I get out there for the holidays. So I'm very
It's worth
excited.
it. It's magical.
Which actually, I'm doing the triple threat. I'm doing the Disneyland during the holidays. I'm doing the Knott's
Mary Farm.
Knott's Merry Farm.
Mary Farm. That's what it's called. I knew it had to be something that rhymed with berry. Go ahead and think of it. Yeah, the Knott's Mary Farm, and then I'm also doing the Grinchmas.
Grinchmas is super fun.
Yeah, up at Universal.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. I mean, Disneyland during Christmas is like insane, George.
It's like it's a drug.
It is. It really is. I mean, and when you walk over to Small World and it's all lit up like that, pictures and video and all that will never prepare you for that moment. I'm telling you.
Like, I have evenings booked in the park just to walk around and like just look at the lights and like eat the food because it's just pure magic.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm very excited to see. Yeah, like It's a Small World and see the It's a Small World holiday and what have you, and that's going to be great. But I also was curious too that they just released, I guess, like a special deal, where it's like you buy a 2-day ticket, you get the 3rd day free during the holiday season for Disney Plus subscribers. So that makes me wonder, do you think that they're anticipating on a slow holiday season?
Well, it could be slow. I see that it's interesting because they tied. This is the thing that's funny about that. They tied it to Disney Plus. So are they trying to help the parks or Disney Plus?
See, I think it's Disney Plus because they also have been having exclusive events on the D23 like fan site for Disney Plus subscribers. I feel like they're trying to justify the cost for all of us who are like, we didn't really want Hulu.
Right.
But thank you. I feel like they're trying to help Disney Plus subscribers and make it feel like, wow, being a part of this subscription service feels really good. Like, I think it's the same reason why like Amazon Prime members are going to be able to screen Wicked before other people. Like, I think they're really trying to add that value, because right now justifying the price is like kind of like, you're like, well, I don't watch ESPN or I don't watch Hulu. All I really wanted was Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's some of it. But I also saw a lot of takes online that they think that because Magic Key sales stopped, like they're not getting as many attendance as they're expecting because people aren't turning out like they thought they would.
Wow, that's interesting.
They paused it in 6 days.
Yeah.
From when it went on sale, which, I mean, surprises me, but doesn't surprise me, because we know that they love to pull those levers, you know.
Which is so annoying. I miss when it was just like whenever, because, and I know that this is why they do it. I get anxiety if it's, because I'm like, oh, I have to renew. If I let it go, I may never get it again.
Yeah. No, it's a psychological kind of mind fucking away, right? Because you're scared to cancel. Like, if you're not happy with your key because the prices went up, people are scared to get rid of it because they don't know if they'll ever get back in the system again in a timely manner, and it messes with your head. So I get it from Disney's perspective, but it's terrible for the consumer.
And it's like really shitty business practices that I'm not sure. Like, I know Walt was a money man, but I'm not sure if he would have like justified the cost, like allowed people to do that, because I feel like that's just mean. Like, Disney's a business, not a charity. I know that, but like, don't come for me. But I know, like, I know it's such a shitty mindset. You're right.
It is.
I was talking, because I was having issues with my Magic Key, because I currently have the Enchant Key, and I want to come out for the 70th, which is in July. But for the Enchant Key, July is completely blocked out. And I thought, okay, well, once the keys come on sale again, I'll just upgrade it, upgrade it to the Believe or the Inspire. So I get on the phone, and a good thing I called the day before, and I said, I am allowed to upgrade my key once they go on sale, correct? She said yes. And I said, so do I just call back on the phone, dial for the Magic Key department, or can I do it online? She said, I'm so very sorry to tell you this, but you have to physically be here at the ticket kiosk. Yes, if you have a current active Magic Key, to upgrade once they go on sale, you have to be at a ticket kiosk counter at the resort. And I said, you got to be kidding me. She said, yeah, we've never updated our software to have it do it online. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the Walt Disney Company is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but you can't afford to upgrade your software. Isn't everything done online? Like come out of the
That is
Stone Age.
literally insane. So what are you going to do?
Okay, so what I thought I was done, and I actually did a solo live on the channel because I had a rant. I was pissed. So actually, good friend of the channel, Lene Ward, gave me the suggestion. She says, I know this is a little bit more money upfront. She said, when the tickets go on sale tomorrow, just buy out another Magic Key. Either buy out the Believe or the Inspire, and that way you don't have to activate it until that time. And I thought, that's interesting, but I thought, can I do that without it disrupting my Enchant Key? Because I have all reservations booked now for December. So I called Disney. Shout out to Antoinette, awesome cast member I spoke to.
We love cats.
And she said, honestly, she said, I did it all the time with my family of 4. She said, I did it for all 4 of us. Disney doesn't like one person to have multiple keys at the same time, but it's not that you can't. They just don't prefer it. And I told her, and I said, I'm not going to activate it until July, and then my Enchant Key expires at the beginning of August. So she said, oh, that kind of fits in well. She said, yeah. She said, just go and buy it. So on the 6th, I jumped on. It only took about 5 minutes for me to get through the queue line, because I jumped on 5 minutes early than what they said to be ready for. And I purchased the Believe. So right now I currently have 2 Magic Keys.
That's so cool.
So I'm going to use the Enchant all the way up until July.
So this is a crazy question and maybe in the weeds and nerdy, but when I used to work there, we had whatever date you bought your ticket, and the first day you activated was the start of your annual pass. Is that still how it's operated? It's not the
Yes.
day of purchase.
So I asked Antoinette that because that was concerning. I said, so if I purchase this, is it currently the expiration date is on for November 6th? She said no. The date that you will have your expiration will be the day that you actually activate your key to go in through the park at the turnstile.
Oh,
And I said, so can I book my July's reservations before I activate it? And she says, absolutely. She said, that'll just be your activation time because you're going to have to book some sort of reservation to activate it. So you could just make it July. She just said, unfortunately, you just can't do that right now because the July month isn't available right now. So,
of course.
Yeah.
Interesting, but clever little workaround. I mean, that's wild. That's wild. You even know how to do that though.
That's what I'm saying. It's wild that he had to do that. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But Danielle, it is always an honor and a pleasure having you on. Always a good time. I'd love to have you on again very, very soon. It was a lot of fun.
You guys are awesome. Seriously, I love hanging out with you guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. If you can remind everybody where they could find you on social media.
Yes, you can find me. My name is DeeMagicGurl. I'm on X, Threads, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, Blue Sky, Instagram. Find me and I'll find you.
There she is. There she is. And the Italiana, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. Okay. So everybody at home, comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. All the D23 Brazil announcements. DCA, we talked a lot about DCA today. You know, the theme, avatar, tying all that together, Tiana's, everything we talked about, whatever's on your mind, comment down below. We would love to hear from you. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.